This is a video going over my early thoughts on the newly released Legend of Zelda game, Echoes of Wisdom. Nothing in this video will spoil anything that wasn't shown in the trailers, but if you'd rather go in totally blind, you can come back to this video later. Please keep the comment section spoiler-free, both for my sake and for the sake of other viewers. I don't want to speak too soon, but I think Zelda might be back. Right off the bat, I want to say that I haven't finished this game yet. I'm a handful of dungeons in, but I still have plenty of story to experience and world to explore. This will be a preliminary review based on my early hours with the game. Over the summer, I started playing the Oracle games. This is related, I promise. These games came out near the very end of the Game Boy Color's life cycle. In fact, the Game Boy Advance was only a month or so away from being released when Oracle of Ages and Seasons dropped. They're definitely held back by the hardware to some extent, but that doesn't stop them from being chock full of charm and creative puzzles. Echoes of Wisdom is not an epic, dramatic experience like Twilight Princess, and it's not a sprawling, ambitious open world like Breath of the Wild. Instead, Echoes of Wisdom reminds me of Oracle of Ages and Seasons. Delightful, adorable, scaled back, and eminently solid. But, of course, I wouldn't be me if I didn't have my hang-ups. So let's go over some of my sticking points before I talk about what I'm liking so far. If nothing I talk about feels like a deal breaker, I think it's worth giving the game a shot. Besides, there's an island with a shrine on it, and this game is only $60. By far the worst thing about this game is the user interface. Good lord. Tears of the Kingdom's infamous hotbar is back with a vengeance, and, much like in Tears, beyond being generally annoying, it works to discourage experimentation with echoes you may not use as often. You can select echoes from a larger grid-style menu, but this menu can't be sorted, and if you want to sort the hotbar, there are 5 options. So if you want to view your most used or most recently used echo, you'll have to mash the sort button to get there. There's no way to mark echoes as favorites, monsters and non-monster echoes share the same hotbar, and worst of all, you can only put echoes on one button, the Y button. I wasn't initially worried about this because A Link Between Worlds only let you use the Y button for items at first, and you unlocked the use of the X button a little later on. But then, I entered the game's first dungeon and was introduced to Bind, or as I inevitably end up calling it, Ultra Hand, and... No! Oh no. Echoes of Wisdom takes some clear cues from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom in terms of its control scheme. The sword and sword fighter form, for example, is mapped to Y. Z targeting is mapped to ZL. What I don't understand then is why the ability so clearly inspired by Ultra Hand isn't mapped to L. If it were, it would feel much more comfortable to the players used to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and more importantly, it would free up the X button for a second echo. Considering the L button doesn't have its own function and instead acts as another way of opening the echo hotbar, I really struggle to understand what they were thinking here. If I wanted to play a Zelda game where I have to stop and pause to switch items every 5 seconds, I'd just go replay the Oracle games. I understand that if Bind were mapped to L, it might be a little bit cumbersome to use ZL to lock onto something and then use L to bind to it, but honestly, that's a trade I'm more than willing to make. Another place where my Tears of the Kingdom muscle memory screws me over a little is in activating sword fighter form. This is mapped to up on the D-pad, which opened the materials menu in Tears. Echoes remind me much more of materials than they do of weapons, and in the early game, between my muscle memory and the Switch D-pad being pretty finicky in general, especially if you're using the Pro Controller, I found myself switching into sword fighter form by accident a lot. Watching my mom play the game confirmed for me that this isn't strictly a me problem, since she does the same thing all the time. Personally, I'd rather have sword fighter form mapped to down on the D-pad, with the echoes bar moved to up. This would feel more intuitive and in line with what players playing Echoes after Tears will be comfortable with, and it would also make accidental switches into sword fighter form less likely. But it's entirely possible this is a skill issue. Again, I'm not super comfortable with the controls as I'm writing this, so it is entirely possible that it's a me thing. Anyway, the other issue I see people bring up a lot is the game's performance. I'm not someone who cares a ton about frame rate or whatever, and I'm inclined to blame the performance issues on the Switch rather than on the game. It is a little distracting watching the game chug at times, but overall the game looks pretty great actually. As for my my other small complaints, I wish all the NPCs were named rather than just major characters and a small handful of side characters. The music's generally quite good, but some of the tracks feel oddly short for how much time you'll be spending listening to them. The camera moves awkwardly every time you talk to someone, and worst of all, you can't pet the cats! Literally unplayable. All jokes aside though, now that I've aired my short list of grievances, let's talk about what the game's doing right so far. For starters, I know this art style has its haters, but I could never be one of them. I think this game's absolutely adorable, and despite its simplicity, it manages to look not just beautiful, but occasionally genuinely impressive. The lighting looks fantastic, the colors are vibrant without being headache-inducing, looking at you, Luncheon Kingdom, and the game just looks so tasty. Not just the food either. Everything in this game looks like it could be made of fondant on a giant birthday cake. The sound design is also excellent, from the UI navigation sound effects to the diegetic sounds like footsteps and water splashes, to Zelda's cute little vocalizations. I don't love the noises that Tri makes, but that's more a personal preference than anything else. Echoes of Wisdom is striking a really nice balance so far with its world as well. This Hyrule is diverse, with lots of biomes to see, tons of enemy types, and lots of different quirky characters to talk to. But it's also refreshingly compact. The content on offer here stands out more since there's not as much copy and pasting done in order to fill an arbitrarily huge world. And while exploration is still engaging enough that you might find yourself getting lost or disoriented, it's not like Wind Waker Sea, or Skyward Sword Sky, or Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom's everything, where travel time is mostly spent mindlessly walking, flying, gliding, or sailing towards a point of interest. Speaking of points of interest, there are so many of them. I won't spoil all the places you can go and characters you can talk to, in part because I haven't seen all of them yet, but suffice it to say that I've been delighted just about everywhere I've gone. There are lots of charming characters, plenty of side quests to do, and this game even has real dungeons. It feels like a low bar to clear, but I'm happy that at least the game clears it. Also, you can make smoothies. Not only is this characteristically adorable, it also feels like somewhat of a compromise with the way the open air entries gave you basically infinite healing via the items in your inventory. The ingredients you can get in this game don't restore much health, some don't restore any at all, and you really are better off just waiting to make them into a smoothie rather than eating them raw in a pinch. It can still be a bit cheesy, but I won't pretend it's not cheese I'm willing to take advantage of from time to time. And, of course, it's just a joy to be able to play as Zelda. It's bullshit that she doesn't get her own sword and is instead limited to the Tri-Rod, but the wide range of things you can pull off with this power makes it feel rewarding and not wholly game-breaking. I'm sure there's some sort of dominant strategy nonsense I've yet to stumble across, but at least for where I am in the game right now, the experience has been solid, visually appealing, full of charm, and even though I haven't finished it yet, I'm already looking forward to replaying it, so I can try things again in a different order or with a different strategy. It really does feel like a compromise was made on some level between the open-ended meandering bullshit of the open-air titles and the puzzle-solving, quirky characters and exploration that Zelda's been known for so long. All of these thoughts are subject to change, of course, but if you're curious about Echoes of Wisdom, I'd recommend giving it a shot. Like I said, I plan on giving my full thoughts on the game at some point in the future, but between college and me just generally taking a while to produce videos, it may be some time before that video comes out. In the meantime, stay tuned. I've got plenty of stuff in the works. Thank you so much to all my plushies on Patreon whose names are on screen right now. There are so many of you at this point that I can't fit all your names on screen at once, which is crazy and I feel so lucky. Thanks to my big skits, Reach, Super Turtle 64, Jane, Jen, Era, Evagorn, Ash, and Birthday Boy. And finally, a special thanks to my holy skits. Thank you Zen, thank you Rosalina, thank you Sarah, thank you Rob, thank you Orion, thank you Triforce, thank you Avery, thank you Fossil Daddy, and thank you Redman. To all my patrons, your support means the world to me and I've been really enjoying connecting with you all on the Discord. And to everyone, thank you as always for watching.